calling those plays, preparing for those plays, and executing?
I mean, just, collective effort from coaching staff. You look and you develop a game plan. Like Brandon's pass was really a build off of a run that we didn't even run, so we had a 2-play set, and it's kind of on the fence on whether I was going to go with the run or the pass in that particular time, and obviously it worked out the way in a good way. But it was a recurring theme throughout the day is our guys just made plays, like play after play after play. And I know it was on all phases, but our guys offensively, just continued to make the play, and that's what happened in that one. So, it's 4th and 2. I think putting the ball in the quarterback's hands on the edge is a good thing, and it turns out putting the ball on the edge, in his hands on the edge with Big Brandon on the edge is a good thing as well. So, obviously that was fun to see them pull that off in that moment, and it was critical for our success, obviously. And so, again, it's about the players. And then the next one, we've been repping. Ironically enough, we were going to run that play, that same play the week before. We got called for a procedure against Central Michigan. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but Pat was about to shift and, line up there. And then we just adjusted and adapted it to the next week because we'd shown the formation to just come out of the huddle and put Pat at fullback to, try to hide where he's at a little bit. So make it a little harder for them to communicate. Crowd noise actually played in our favor a little bit because they recognized him. You can see on the film they recognized where he was at, but they were having a little bit of a hard time communicating with the crowd noise. And then they ended up matching it late, but just had to run through a little bit too much traffic. But
Red zone was something we talked about a couple of years ago, Barry. Just what's the process of addressing that and getting good at it that you guys have as a play caller?
Yeah, well, we just work. We work at it. Obviously, we worked at it 2 years ago, and we were a different team 2 years ago. I was a different coordinator 2 years ago. We were playing different opponents 2 years ago. So the bottom line is, whatever year it is, whatever team you're on, you got to execute in the red zone. And we obviously spend a lot of time working on it during camp. Every spring camp, fall camp we spend the first 3 days down there, so we get a lot of our stuff installed. And then really at that point in time, it's just kind of dressing things up and figuring out different ways to do the things that our guys are comfortable with. And always looking to add stuff and tweak things and enhance things or steal stuff. It's just the life of an OC. You're always trying to do that. But our players are executing fairly well down there. We've left some stuff on the table, but the other night it was critical that we executed when we did. I didn't like some of the things we did down there, but again, our guys made plays and you were able to capitalize down there.
Barry, I got to credit Pat Bryant after the game with this idea, but he seems to think that the tablets have really helped Luke in a sense of being able to real-time evaluate himself and not second-guess himself on what he thinks might have happened compared to last year. Is that something you're seeing out of Luke, that there's a confidence level because he's getting that information?
I certainly, it's not hurting anything.
Right.
I can know that for sure. I think it'd be a great question to ask him, when given the chance. And him and I haven't really talked at length about that, other than we get a chance to quickly, to your point, and to Pat's point, quickly review what just happened. Right? Hey, we're going to come back to this. Hey, that was a really good decision. Hey, we got to give this ball here. There's some real-time feedback that probably does bring clarity to all of us, as a coach and a player, to understand, hey, what we need to come back to. Sometimes it's like, because sometimes in a game you're like, well, we should never come back to that. That stunk. And but then you watch the real-time, feedback on the iPad, and you're like, no, all we got to do is just tweak this, or if we get the right block, or if we run the right depth, or if you see this the right way, we can come back and do that again. So I think there's some element to that with him. But I think as intellectual as Luke is, and the way he sees and processes the game, the more information that he gets is better. And I think that's probably a pretty common effect for him on game day.
Some national recognition for Luke. What are some key things about his play and his preparation that have allowed him to have that success?
He spends a lot of time preparing, as all of our players do, but in particular, he's got a routine that he likes and lives by. And, I think he has we spend a lot of time in the meeting room together, but, there's that meeting time alone that we have that we use by NCAA is just not enough to really fully prepare a quarterback. So a lot of that falls on his own to go out and do on his own in overtime. And he's got a really good routine, and he had the same routine last year. And I can't speak specifically what it is, but I know that he's got one, and he's got a routine that he sticks with, and that he feels comfortable by the time game week or game day gets there, what he's studied, what he knows, what he's learned about the opponent. Again, he's very cerebral, so I think he puts a lot of time in preparation for the opponents. Obviously, he's playing really well. Our team's playing well around him. But obviously been pleased with him, and now it's time to just continue to build off what we did last week and get ready for an extremely tough environment against an extremely good defense, you know, and it's kind of the way of the life in the Big Ten on the road, and it'll be an incredible challenge for us, but I do like the way he's playing and preparing himself.
Coach, the way you're using running backs now, the way you're deploying them, is that all predetermined, or is that kind of a fluid thing during the game? You know, how do you make those decisions?
Yeah, as far as getting 4 guys involved
Yeah,
in the
and
game.
how much you use them when you're
Yeah. We actually don't go in with a set formula,
Okay.
other than that has a set rotation that he likes
Sure.
to start with, and then each rotation or each series may have somebody else that's like the backup for that series. If that somebody needs a little breather or something. And some of it's kind of scheme based, you know,
Right.
about playing to what we perceive as strengths and weaknesses there. And but it's important. We have a stable there that have all, even in the game the other night, obviously all contributed greatly to. I mean, Khalil, I think he had 2 runs, and they were both really critical during the game. He may have had more carries than that, but I think it was 2. And they got a great teamwork. I think kind of emulate, represent kind of what we want to be about, and we are at a lot of positions. Just hey, you know, there's not a lot of pride there. They take pride in their work, but they're not so prideful that it causes a problem when another guy gets to carry. They root for each other, you know, pull for each other. Very pleased with the way those guys are playing.
Have you used 4 before in your history of that many? Is that
4?
a lot? Is 4 too many or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Four's
Four's
about
fine.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think it's good, especially when you look at across the spectrum of how different and unique each 4 of them are.
Okay.
So I think that's a positive thing for us, and there's roles for all those guys to continue to be expanded and to help us win.
Barry, I know after Central Michigan, Brett talked about challenging the offensive line, and it sounds like Melvin Priestley had a message throughout the course of last week. Like, what did you see the response from those guys to kickstart that run game?
Well, I mean, I think they just kept coming to work, you know, and obviously I think, you know, it was documented that Melvin said a few words to the team, and I think he said, you know, it was a very good message that anytime your players talk in front of the team and want to, he came to me several times and had something on his heart he wanted to say, and he spoke his mind. I think our players received that well, and it was another layer of our preparation leading into the game last week. And obviously they take a great deal of pride. I mean, our team's going to only go as far as they take us, and they've had some real bright moments in this season. But I thought on Friday night, obviously I thought they really rose to the occasion against a really tough defense, a tough scheme that just causes a lot of headaches for the O-line. And I've been a part of teams against that particular scheme have been beat before they got to the game because of all the movement and the twist and the different fronts. And I thought our guys just had an incredible amount of composure going into the week. I think it being a short week was kind of a blessing in disguise because we didn't have a lot of time to think about it. I thought Bart and Byron and the O-line team did a great job of getting our guys ready to play, and really shined in the second half of the game. We just kept, to be honest with you, early on in the year, some of the challenges were created because we were probably running into a little bit too heavy of a box. We started to use RPOs more to lighten that. I think the first play of the overtime really represents that. Like the boundary safety he's sitting back there making sure that we can't pop an RPO in there, and then all of a sudden the ball bounces off the shelf and you got a lot of running space, and the line did a great job there. But if the safety was down at 4 yards, nobody would have thought the line did a good job there, and he made the tackle, so there's some of that too. And so I think I'm helping us, and kind of how we've shifted a little bit, using that a little bit more to run a little bit more advantageous boxes, so to speak. But I can't say enough about how they played and the physicality they played with, the tenacity, and it's really on camaraderie. We really were synced up nicely, and it showed in the second half in particular.
Is there unique things about the Penn State defense and some challenges for you guys this week?
Yeah, I mean, the unique thing about them is, I think probably, I think there's without question the twitchiest, quickest defense that we played against at this point across the board. I mean, obviously they got some elite pass rushers and some really good back end players, all levels. I mean, they got some highly recruited, highly decorated guys that deservingly so. They play with a lot of quickness. They're very, very quick. And last year that gave us some problems. their speed and power. And so we're going to have to match that, get their feet in the ground, and be really spot on, because they created a challenge in that regard because of the speed and power they play with.
Barry, do you see a significant difference in them with Tom Allen there now compared to last year's defense?
There's some similarities there. That's one of the things you're always trying to wrap your mind around about, okay, Coach Allen and the history there about, him being a defensive coordinator, and then what he took over, and how he's blended, his beliefs and his, his schemes into what was previously there. So there's some carryover. There's a little bit of both of that. When you watch him play, you see a little bit of Coach Allen's personality that I'm just loosely familiar with. Got a great deal of respect for him as a coach and as a man. And these guys play really hard and play fast, and they get up there and they really challenge you. And so I think that falls right into the wheelhouse of who he seems to represent as a coach from a distance. And but they've got a scheme there that's really good. They got really good players, and I got a really tough environment to play with. Sounds familiar, but this challenge is just going to obviously only increase from what we faced last week, and we're going to have to be spot on to go be able to move the ball and stay on the field.
Barry, did Doug
have 5 intercepted, 4 turnovers, and another 5 total turnovers that game. Do you think he's grown from that performance?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, obviously, I thought he grew immediately last year after it. That was a rough day for our offensive football team, not just Luke Altmaier. It was me, it was him, it was our team on offense. As every player was a part of that. We were kind of overwhelmed to a large degree, and I think our guys, remember that and respect that from Penn State because of the speed and the power they play with. And so I think obviously it was a learning opportunity for Luke, like it was for me. And it was like a hope for Josh Krutz and, Pat Bryant and the guys that are involved in that team. And so I think obviously Luke's gotten better from that moment. And I thought he did last year, but he, just continued to build upon each game's its own game, right? So anything we've done in the past doesn't really affect what's going to happen this coming Saturday in this environment, other than you can glean the good and the bad, and you gain some confidence and also see where you need to correct things. So I think Luke's in a good spot for that, but obviously we know the challenge before us is going to be an incredibly strong one.
Barry, to dovetail off of Joey's question, it seemed like it could have been easy to more or less ditch the running game after 3 quarters, and it felt like you guys were seeing things in those 1 to 2 or 3 yard carries where, man, we were this close to getting a big breaker, and you got 4 of them in the 4th.
Yeah, we did. I mean, that's kind of the nature of how you have to approach that scheme. Is we told our guys, like, listen, there's going to be a lot of 1 and 2 yard runs. I mean, there just are, with all the movement, the twist, and we felt like we could use a little bit of tempo to maybe fatigue them a little bit. I'm not saying any way, shape, or form to say that in judgment to what kind of shape they were in or weren't in. I'm just saying, like, they got a big, strong line, and we had seen some, and it was really hot. I mean, it was really, really hot. You guys are at the game. It was like super humid. So, we always think that's a little bit of an advantage. So we used the tempo, I think, early on, and even in the 3rd quarter, to tire them a little bit. And our guys just kept plugging away, and then all of a sudden they fit a gap wrong, or we had an advantageous call compared to what they had called, and there we go. And so hopefully that's going to be a springboard for us moving forward. It should be for confidence for the way our guys played and the way the run game fit together and how it complemented what we were doing. I thought we just did a nice job of just staying in there and being patient with it, and then when the opportunities revealed itself, our backs took advantage of it.
We're going to talk about the run game. I feel like we have to talk about Tanner Arkin as well. Like, what did you see from him, and how does he kind of enhance what you guys do from a blocking standpoint?
Well, he's just he's a really good player that just is really consistent in physicality, C-gap area. It's not perfect like any of us, but just been really impressed with how he handles his business, his maturity, his intentionality. He's just really, really been a steady presence for us. And then to see him rise up and make the plays that he made, the one catch he made on the 3rd down and like 2 or 3 was a phenomenal catch and effort for him. And then, obviously he was pretty open on the corner route, so he did a good job on the route. But that play that he made in particular it's a tough play, and he's just gritty, he's tough, he's reliable, he stands for everything that we want our players to stand for. And he's kind of the heart and soul of that group there.
Last question. Year 2 could be different with the quarterback. Both you guys in the same relationship. Like, how's that played out? How has it been different having Luke in the second year and he and you for a second year?
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference, right? I mean, we know each other pretty well, and I feel like I know what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what he's good at and what he's not good at, and I think he probably understands me a little bit better now. And like any relationship, you're around each other more, you grow, and you have your highs and your lows, and we're all working towards the same goal. So obviously, I think he's he feels good about. We feel good about how he's playing, and he's going to continue to have to play that way for us to be able, in particular, go this week to go. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but doesn't mean you have to have the same production. But he's got to go play like he's been playing to take care of the ball, and when the plays present itself, make the plays and use his legs to help us. And I really like where he's at. There's more room for growth. I mean, just like as an OC, as a quarterback, there's always plays you want back. I mean, just like there was this week. Like, man, there's 4 or 5 calls. I'll be like, man, I wanted that one back. And sure, there's 3 or 4 plays Luke felt the same way about, but obviously he's playing at a really high level. He's going to have to continue to do that. But I'm proud of where he's at in our relationship in year 2. I think we benefited from that as a football team.